Live from the Man Cave, it's Charles Leeson.
Okay. Oh, that's my first stories. My wife said I'd never make it in comedy because I'm not Jewish. But the closest thing I got is I was almost circumcised. I was born in Minnesota in the winter. I had a real close call when I was born. I come just a couple inches of becoming born a turd. My father said to the doctor, "You never circumcised the boy." The doctor said, "Mr. Leeson, it's cold in Minnesota. There wasn't even enough to work with." I got a little older. My mother would send me out to feed the wolves, and I was never smart enough to know that she never sent nothing with me. So we moved to Michigan. I grew up, had a few close calls. Most of it was good. Had to have a tumor removed from my hip one time. And I went into the doctor. He said, "We have to take you in, cut it out." So when they're getting ready to send me in the operating room, I told the nurse, "Save that tumor." She said, "What do you want that tumor for?" Well, I said, "The IRS has been after my ass for years. I'm going to give them a piece of it." And one time I went to a doctor. I had a prostate problem. I went to the doctor, and this doctor's from India. Real nice doctor. He checks my prostate. He said, oh my goodness, never have I felt a prostate this big." He said, "I want this other doctor to feel this." I said, "Not both of you at the same time." He said, "Oh no, only one of us at a time." I was in a bar one night, had to go to the bathroom. I'm standing there at the urinal, the guy next to me, I looked over at him, I said, "My God," I said, "Dr. Brown circumcised you." He said, "How in the world would you know that?" He said, "I don't even know that." Well, I said, "I knew Dr. Brown and never cut quite straight," and I said, "You're peeing on my shoes." There was a man riding on a train, he traveling, looked over, and a guy across him and down a couple rows was talking to himself, and sometimes he'd laugh, sometimes he'd shake his hands. He said, after so long, I couldn't handle it anymore, so I had to ask him, "What's going on?" Well, he said, "I'm a salesman, I do a lot of traveling." He said, "To pass the time away, I tell myself stories." "Oh," he said, "I see." He said, "I see you laugh." He said, "Some of them are funny." He said, "What's this here?" He said, "That's the ones I've already heard." There was a drunk walking down. First, I should get ahead of the story. A guy went to a sporting house. He told a madam, he said, "I want something real kinky." So he fixed her up with this one lady. Go up in the room. He said, "Okay, now we both take our clothes off. We get at each end of the room and we run together." Well, when it hit, they bounced, fell out the window. Both fell unconscious. There's a drunk walking down the street. He walks up to him. He looks at him. He walks up and he knocks on the door, and the madam comes to the door. She said, "Sir, we don't serve drunks here. You got to get out of here." He said, "But ma'am," she said, "You don't understand." He said, "No, you don't understand. I just come here to tell you your sign fell down." One time, my son was telling a story about me. He said, Dad had lost his wife. Things were bowed down for him. He thought, well, hell, I'll just commit suicide. No, wait, there's more to life than that. He said, so Dad went out and bought a farm. He said he's out one day, the sun's shining, he's plowing in the field, and all of a sudden a bolt of lightning hit his tractor and blew him right off on the ground. He said, Dad shook his head, he stood up, he looked up at the sky, he said, Lord, what the world did I do to deserve this? All of a sudden a voice from the sky come down and said, I don't know, Charlie, but there's just something about you that pisses me off. A good friend of mine passed away a few months ago, and I run into his wife in the store, and I asked her, what happened? Well, she said, don't really know, she said, but she said, he was eating dog food. Got to where he was eating a can of dog food every night. Oh, I said, no wonder he died. Well, no. She said, that's not what killed him. Oh, I said, well, what did he die from? Well, she said, one night, he was laying on the couch licking himself. He fell off on the floor and broke his neck. Oh, yeah. We were I was a bricklayer all my life. Me and a buddy of mine, we were working on this building with this ironwork. We got pretty well acquainted with him, and one day he fell off, got killed. We all went down there, and cops and everybody standing around. They said, "Anybody know this guy's name?" No, nobody knows his name, last name. I said, "Does anybody know where he lives?" No, nobody lives. And I told my buddy, I said, "Maybe we should tell the cop that this guy's got 2 assholes." So I said to the cop, I said, "Officer," I said, "this guy, he got 2 assholes. Did that make any difference?" He said, "How in the world do you know? You don't know his name, you don't know where he lives, but you know he's got 2 assholes." Well, I said, every night after work, we go across the street to the bar, the iron worker, my buddy and I. Every time we go in, the bartender says, "Here comes that asshole, here comes that iron worker with 2 assholes." My wife had a doctor's appointment a while back here, and she kept bumping into things and sort of stumbling. And so she went to the doctor, and I told her, I said, when you went in, I said, "Now, have the doctor check your rectum light. I think it might be burned out. That's probably why you're bumping into things. Can't see where you're going." My wife and I, we argue quite a bit. One time she told me, she said, "You know, you're just plain effing goofy." I said, "That's the only way I know how." Years ago, Buddy and I, we had to go to town to get some parts for a truck I was rebuilding. Rebuilding the motor. We had to go down to All Night Auto Parts, and so happened on the way back, he saw this prostitute. He said, "We just got to go there." So he said, we had to follow her around different blocks and turn around. So my brother-in-law was with us. So I said, "We're not going in there." So he goes in. Brother-in-law says, "Think we ought to leave him in there?" I said, "I ain't going in there." So this guy comes out. He said, "Hey guys, come on in, wait for your buddy." "Nah," I said, "Want to play some cards?" I said, "Oh, I don't know anything about playing cards." He said, "We just play for change." So I told my buddy before we went in there, I said, "Better give me all your money, because they're liable to roll you." So we get in there, we playing for change, and I win about 2-3 hands. Now it gets time to go home. I said, "Well, we got to go." The guy said, "Hold on now. You're not going one more hand." Okay, I don't want no trouble. I don't want nobody getting hurt. So one more hand, we're all done. So this guy bets $10 right off the bat. And my buddy, he comes out by that time, is raising. So, raising. So end up, I lose all my money and my buddy's money. We get out in the car. My buddy says, "Man, I feel sorry for you. I feel bad about that, Charlie. You lost all that money." I said, "You don't know the worst of it." I said, "That was your money I lost." Yeah. And I said, it took me about 2 weeks to pay him back, because we weren't making much money in them days. Oh, there was 2 old Jewish boys that came over to America. There was Joseph and Nick. And they got a room, and they worked hard. They saved all their money. So finally, Joseph got married, took a wife. And he brought her home, and Nick says, "I better leave." No, he said, "Nick," he said, "you and I come over here to this country together." He said, "There's no reason for you to leave now." So he said, "Maybe it'll be okay." So Joseph come home from work one day, and Nick's suitcase was packed in by the door. He said, "Are you going on a vacation, Nick?" No, Joseph," he said, "I'm going to leave. I'm going to move out." "Why? Why are you going to move out?" "Well," he said, "I don't want to tell you this, but," he said, "I think your wife is trying to poison me." He said, "What would make you think that?" "Well," he said, "the other day," he said, "I was watching television. She came in and she said, 'Would you want a little arsenic?'"